Counselor Baker, Counselor Campbell, Counselor Siomo, Counselor Asabi George, Counselor Flaherty, Counselor Jackson, Counselor Lamatina, Counselor Linehan, Counselor McCarthy, Counselor O'Malley, Counselor Presley, Counselor Wu,
Present.
and Counselor Zachem. Madam President, we have a quorum.
Thank you. And now I'd like to invite up Counselor Campbell, who will introduce our faith leader for the day. Would all counselors and guests please rise for the invocation? And please remain standing after the invocation. Counselor Campbell will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Today we welcome Imam Talib Mahdi to open us up in prayer for this council meeting. He is currently the resident imam of Masjid Al-Quran in Grove Hall. Mahdi was born and raised in Cambridge, Massachusetts, educated in all Cambridge public schools. He earned an associate's degree from Roxbury Community College and a bachelor's degree in human services from New Hampshire College. He made the pilgrimage to the Mecca in 1980. In Cairo, Egypt in 1989, he studied Arabic at the prestigious Al-Azhar University, and the following year was on a national delegation from the Clara Muhammad School that traveled to Saudi Arabia in order to analyze its educational system. I was like, excuse me. Mahdi participates in several community organizations that represent a diverse population, such as the United Way Faith in Action, Cooperative Metropolitan Ministries, the Islamic Council of New England, and the Muslim American Society Northeast Regional Council. He is a happily married husband and extremely devoted father. Please join me in welcoming Imam Mahdi.
Thank you. We always greet whoever we're talking to and ourselves who we're talking to with the greetings that we give in our tradition, Assalamu alaikum, which simply means peace be upon you. I want to begin by thanking the Counselor Andrea Campbell for this invitation to open up this meeting with prayer. So let us pray. With God's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer, the praise belongs to God, the Lord and cherisher and sustainer of all the worlds. The merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer, master of the day of judgment. Thee alone do we worship and not aid we seek. Show us the straight way, the way of those on whom you have bestowed thy blessings, not of those who encourage your wrath, nor of those who go astray. With God's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer, our Lord, let not our hearts deviate after you have guided us. Bestow upon us the gift of your grace. Verily, you are the giver of grace. Our Lord, verily you will gather humanity together to witness the day about which there is no doubt. Verily, God does not fail in his promise. Our Lord, I ask you that you extend your hands of mercy upon this gathering. Bless all of us with a spirit to stand upon that which is true. Our Lord, extend to this leadership body the wisdom to carry out their mission and strengthen their purpose for the betterment of humanity. Bless the council members with a vision of justice and fairness that will be in honor of every citizen of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the United States of America. Our Lord, bring their hearts together that they may act as a united body without prejudice. Our Lord, strengthen our commitment to you, to ourselves, to our families, to our neighbors and neighborhoods, our city and state. Our Lord, forgive us our sins and remove from us our weaknesses, and take to thyself our souls in the company of the righteous. Our Lord, grant us with that which you promised through your messengers upon them peace, and save us from shame on the day of death or judgment day. For you never break your promise. May God guide and strengthen humanity. Amen.
Thank you very much, Councillor Campbell and Imam. Before we get started with a really special presentation, I do want to recognize a group of visitors that we have in the council chamber, led by Ann Schmaltz. The League of Women Voters has brought a group of residents from Carlton Willard Village who are interested in learning more about Boston, and they've been spending time with Juan Lopez and around City Hall. So welcome. Thank you for joining us. And now I am very pleased to invite up Pauline Bilski to now continue our annual tradition of celebrating Jazz Week right here in the City Council chamber. Pauline of Jazz Boston.
I just want to say that we're very happy to be invited back to the council chamber again this year to celebrate Jazz Week and International Jazz Day with you. In fact, the chamber has become one of our favorite jazz venues because we have so many good friends here. Starting with President Wu, who made history when she invited us into the chamber for the first time in 2014. I hope you're going to enjoy the band that we brought today, the No Walls Express, led by Bill Lowe. They're named for an anthem of hope and inclusivity composed by Mark Sumner Harvey. Mark his ancestor was the famous Massachusetts senator and abolitionist Charles Sumner. They're going to play the conclusion of Mark's composition, No Walls, and this is the same music that we played for you 4 years ago, and we're doing it again because the message is even more relevant today. So thank you very much for inviting us. Bill, the band.
Could councilors bend your microphones in too so the feed will pick up? Thank you all very much. Stay here. We want to take a picture with you as tradition and present you with our official resolution proclaiming April 21st through 30th, 2017 Jazz Week in Boston. So if all my colleagues could come up, we'll do a quick photo with the band. Band probably go here. We can fill in all. Here, Polly. Thank you as always. Thank you. Thank you again, Jazz Boston. As the band packs up, we'll move on to formal business. Madam Clerk, if you could please mark that Councillor Presley and Councillor O'Malley are present as well. We'll start with approval of the minutes from last meeting. Are there any changes or amendments or edits? Seeing and hearing none, the minutes stand approved. And then proceed with communications from His Honor the Mayor.
Docket number 0600, message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $41,412 in the form of a grant awarded by Demand Abolition to be administered by the Police Department. The grant would fund cities' empowered sexual exploitation network, Phase 2, for law enforcement's interventions, technology, and research-based innovation.
Docket 0600 will be assigned to the Committee on Public Safety and Criminal Justice.
Docket number 0601, message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $25,000 in the form of a grant awarded by the Patriot Care Corporation to be administered by the Police Department. The grant would fund the purchase and installation of public safety cameras and accompanying hardware.
Docket 0601 will also be assigned to the Committee on Public Safety and Criminal Justice.
Docket number 0602, message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept for the benefit of the Boston Police Department the donation of office furniture to be used by District A1 Precinct. The office furniture, specifically office chairs, tables, and desks, will be used to update the police station, which will further facilitate the district's services and benefit to the residents of Boston.
On docket 0602, Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee on Public Safety and Criminal Justice, Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Madam President. This is pretty self-explanatory, so today I rise to ask that we suspend the rules and pass docket number 0602. The Combined Jewish Philanthropies Organization donated this office furniture to District A1. The furniture, specifically chairs, tables, and a desk, will be used to update the police station and further facilitate the district services and benefits to the residents of that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Campbell. Counselor Campbell moves for suspension of the rules and passage of docket 0602. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0602 has been passed. Reports of public officers and others. And Madam Clerk, if you could please read all in this section.
Thank you. Docket number 0603, notices received from the mayor of the appointment of Travis Watson as a member of the Boston Employment Commission for term expiring August 13th, 2018. Docket number 0604, communication was received from the Boston Retirement Board regarding FY18 retiree cost of living adjustment, known as COLA, base vote. And docket number 0605, communication was received from the mayor of the from the Boston Retirement Board regarding FY18 retiree cost of living adjustment COLA vote.
Dockets number 0603 through 0605 will be placed on file. Reports of committees.
Docket number 0512, the Committee on Ways and Means, to which was referred on April 5th, 2017. Docket number 0512, message and order approving a supplemental appropriation of $21,200 to provide funding to cover the FY17 cost items contained within the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Boston and the Boston Police School Traffic Supervisors Association. Submits a report recommending the order ought to pass.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee on Ways and Means, Counselor Siomo.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee held its hearing on April 19th, last Wednesday. We had Alexis Kachuk from Director of Labor Relations, as well as Katie Hammer, our Budget Director. The Boston Police School Traffic Supervisors represents approximately 187 part-time school crossing guards who are employed by the Boston Police Department. This supplemental appropriation would cover a base salary increase of 1% effective the first pay period in December in 2016 and 2017, a 0.5% increase effective the first pay period in June of 18, and a 1.5 increase in September of 2018. In addition, it allows current employees to redeem up to 30% of accrued sick time and increases in the uniform allowance. The committee recommends this order ought to pass.
Thank you, Counselor Siomo. Counselor Siomo moves for passage of docket 0512. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. Docket number 0512 has been passed.
Docket number 0517, the Committee on Government Operations, to which was referred on April 5th, 2017. Docket number 0517, an order approving a petition for a special law regarding an act relative to the ownership and occupancy deadline for residential property exemptions in the City of Boston. Submits a report recommending the Home Rule petition ought to pass.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee on Government Operations, Counselor Flaherty.
Madam President, please keep that in committee.
Thank you, Counselor. Docket 0517 will remain in the Committee on Government Operations. Matters recently heard for possible action.
Madam President, I'll read 0535.
Great, so we'll do all the budget items together and give Counselor Siomo a chance to report back if he wishes, and then proceed. Okay, we'll just read them into the record then.
I don't know why they're here. Yeah, all right. So docket number 0536, orders for the FY18 operating budget, including annual appropriation for departmental operations, annual appropriation for the school department, and docket number 0543, an appropriation for other post-employment benefits known as OPEB, capital budget appropriation. I'm sorry, it's 0536 through 0543, excuse me. Capital budget appropriations, including loan orders and lease and purchase agreements. Docket number 0544, message in order for your approval, an ordinance authorizing certain revolving funds in accordance with provisions of General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, as amended by, excuse me, Chapter 218 of the Acts of 2016, the Municipal Modernization Act. Docket number 0545, message in order authorizing the Law Department revolving fund for fiscal year 2018 to purchase goods and services for repairs to city property. This revolving fund shall be funded by receipts from recoveries for damage to the city property caused by third parties. The Law Department will be the only unit authorized to expend from the fund, and such expenditures shall be capped at $500,000. Docket number 0546, message in order authorizing a limit for the Environment Department revolving fund for fiscal year 2018 to facilitate the purchase of offsets and greenhouse gas emissions, which shall be associated with a portion of the electricity consumed by the city annually, as well as to operate and maintain the city's existing, solar facilities, and to expand the city's generating capacity. This revolving fund shall be credited with any and all receipts from the sale of solar renewable energy certificates produced by the city's solar photovoltaic arrays. Receipts and resulting expenditures from this fund shall not exceed $250,000. Docket number 0547, message in order authorizing a limit for the Mayor's Office of Tourism revolving fund for fiscal year 2018 to purchase goods and services to support events and programming on and around City Hall Plaza, to advance tourism and promote participation in public celebrations, civic and cultural events. This revolving fund shall be funded by receipts from payments for the use of City Hall Plaza pursuant to City of Boston Code Ordinance 11-7.14. The Mayor's Office of Tourism will be the only unit authorized to expend from this fund, and such expenditures shall be capped at $150,000. Docket number 0548, message in order authorizing a limit for the Mayor's Office of Arts and Cultural revolving fund for fiscal year 2018 to purchase goods and services to support public art and to enhance the public realm throughout the city of Boston. This revolving fund shall be funded by receipts from easements within the public way granted by the Public Improvements Commission. The Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture will be the only unit authorized to expend from this fund, and such expenditures shall be capped at $150,000. Docket number 0549, message in order authorizing a limit for the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture revolving fund for fiscal year 2018 to purchase goods and services to support the operation of the Strand Theater. This revolving fund shall be funded by receipts from rental fees for the use of the Strand Theater. The Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture will be the only unit authorized to expend from the fund, and such expenditures shall be capped at $150,000. Docket number 0560, message in order authorizing a limit of the Environment Department revolving fund for fiscal year 2017 to facilitate the purchase of offsets of greenhouse gas emissions, which shall be associated with a portion of electricity consumed by the city annually, as well as to operate and maintain the city's existing solar facility and to expand the city's generating capacity. This revolving fund shall be credited with any and all receipts from the sale of solar renewable energy certificates produced by the city's solar photovoltaic arrays. Receipts and resulting expenditures from this fund shall not exceed $250,000.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Dockets number 0536 through 0543, as well as 0544 through 0560 will remain in the Committee on Ways and Means.
Docket number 0566, order approving a home rule petition for a special law regarding an act protecting sunlight and promoting economic development in the city of Boston.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee on Government Operations, Councilor Flaherty.
Thank you, Madam President. Docket 0566 is a home rule petition sponsored by our colleague, City Council Bill Linehan, referred to committee on April the 12th. This proposal seeks to provide an exemption for the project intended by Millennium Partners' proposed redevelopment at the Winthrop Square garage site. We held close to a 7-hour hearing on Monday night, attended by all 13 members. Special mention to our colleagues, City Councilor Anissa Rasabi George and Tim McCarthy, for doing the marathon and for closing that matter out. The petition, if approved, would be for the allowance for the development to cast a shadow on both the Boston Common and the public garden, as well as eliminate the remaining shadow bank. The developments, the abutting common may take form and extend shadow protections to Copley Square. I'm recommending that this matter pass in a new draft, but would like to defer through the chair to the lead sponsor, City Council Bill Linehan. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Flaherty. Councilor Linehan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. And I just want to thank Councilor Flaherty as the chairman of it was a 7-hour marathon, of which many of us spent 4 or 5 hours at. I want to thank all of my colleagues. I want to thank the administration, and I want to the advocate and the proponents of the project, because there truly was a contribution by all to the dialogue and to the hearing. I beg your indulgence to take a little extra time here. Since we began this project, this process nearly 2 years ago, the City Council has worked closely with the administration of the Boston Planning and Development Agency in order to guarantee that our residents are receiving the best deal possible. I am confident that the deal before us is one of the strongest deals that has ever been crafted for the City of Boston. I'm truly proud of our influence and effort as member of the Boston City Council and members in making this sale a real value to Boston. Prior to the garage being condemned, the garage operated privately and generated $1.8 million for the Boston Housing Authority for their security service. And in recent years, the derelict garage has become an eyesore where illicit, illegal, unsavory activities have occurred. It's been a drag on the revitalization of downtown, and now this asset can be used to generate positive improvements to so many important places throughout Boston. The city will receive $153 million from the sale once fully realized, which Mayor Walsh has proposed investing back into public housing in South Boston and East Boston, as well as significant investments, over $60 million to the Boston Common, Franklin Park, the Emerald Necklace. In addition, in addition to the money from the sale, the development will generate $12 million annually. That's $10 million a year more than it was generating as a garage. And it will eliminate that ugly garage. Additionally, this development will invest in affordable housing in neighboring Chinatown, as well as funding for workforce training programs. Plus, the public realm and in the downtown neighborhood will get an infusion of resources and improvements, which are imperative to the continued revitalization of downtown core. Today, I ask you to support this home rule petition that will move the Winthrop Square development closer to realization. Winthrop Square Garage has been in much disrepair. This petition will allow us not to improve, but to maximize the impact it can have on downtown, on green space, on public housing, and jobs for all Boston. While we admire and appreciate the advocacy regarding amending the 1990 state shadow law, the benefit of this project greatly outweighs the minimal impact this tower will have on the Boston Common and the public garden. As elected officials, we take this responsibility very seriously, and we are and have been the stewards of all public spaces and places, and fully understand that this development will be good for Boston and infuse millions of dollars. This potential law change is an enhancement going forward. On the Common, on the worst day, the early morning shadow will be off the Common by 9:30, and less than that on the public art. If this tower was located in the Midtown Cultural District nearby, we would not amend the legislation, and the shadow law would be okay by law. But it's better that we are changing it to further protect green spaces going forward, including now Copley Square, which is included. To eliminate further impacts, this home rule petition eliminates the remainder of the shadow bank that could be used to cast further shadows. The petition requires the Boston Planning and Development Agency to do a comprehensive downtown planning study, which is essential, which will shape the future skyline and the impacts on Boston and its green space. The economic impact of this project will exceed $1 billion when it's through fruition. Create nearly 10,000 jobs, temporary and permanent, and continue building residential density, which is important today to the downtown core. I think I want to thank each and every one of you for your role in this effort and for the green advocacy. Together, we made it a better petition and will realize the maximum benefit from this decaying city asset to the future of our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Linehan. Councillor Zakhem, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Councilor Linehan, for your words. I disagree with a few of them, which is not completely unprecedented for us. But I do want to talk about a little bit about why I am going to be voting against this. And I want to start off by saying I don't doubt anyone's good motives behind their vote on this. All 13 of us, I think, asked thoughtful questions at the hearing yesterday. It's right up there, I think, in the record books, at least in the 3+ years I've been here for length of a hearing, which shows the interest across this city, across the region, and amongst the people sitting around this chamber right now. You know, all of the causes, affordable housing development, our green spaces, our parks, Franklin Park, the Boston Common, everywhere this $150+ million has been earmarked are worthy causes. These are important. But the fact that we've been pitting neighbors against neighbors, park against park, people in this city who all care about many of the same things against each other, I think is a major flaw in this process. Instead of fighting, I think, for a little piece here, a little piece there, it's our obligation to be looking to expand the pie so we all get a bigger piece of the pie. Not that we're just fighting for a one-time payment for the park, for housing and everything else. We need to be advocating for more of these important resources on a daily basis at the macro level and looking at the way it impacts us today and into the future. I think the fact that this is was discussed at the hearing yesterday, some bits of the process has seemed tangled, to be sure. Bits and pieces of information coming out at different times has made it difficult. And the fact that we've been presented with a binary, all or nothing proposal by the developer and by the BPDA has made it very difficult, I think, for folks like myself, like many of the people I represent, who have been interested in providing resources for all of these important causes, have been interested in redeveloping at a significant level the Winthrop Square site, but without an option, I think, that's below a 775-foot proposal that's in front of us right now. I think we have no choice but to oppose this for the future of our park, our green spaces, and for the precedent setting that this does. These laws have been in place for 20+ years, and they've been effective. They have not slowed development in the city of Boston. As we see every year at our budget, through our budget process, growth continues in the city. And that's a good thing. I don't think anyone who's talking about this has been anti-development. And I would also like to talk about the fact that saying we're going to be protecting Copley Square is an important part of this. Protecting encroachment from additional shadows on the Common, if this is approved at the State House, is incredibly important. But some of the changes that have been put into the language around Copley Square raise a bit of a flag for me in saying there's quite a bit that's already been permitted, although not started construction in the area around Copley Square, that I think may make some of these protections in here very illusory. I think that's something that's worth exploring a little more. It was discussed at the hearing, but I'm still unclear on what actual protections are in place for Copley Square. And if we're going to really be talking about trading shadow for shadow, that's something important. That's something, I live a few blocks from Copley Square. It's a park that needs some TLC, and anything we can do to improve that is important. So I want to just close by saying I appreciate the advocacy, many of my constituents and neighbors who are here today and were here at the hearing. And the fact that while we disagree, the fact that the developer did go to every neighborhood, I think to every community group, every place to answer questions. And people may, and many still do disagree. And like I said, I will be voting against this. I don't think it's the right decision right now for our city and for our community. But regardless of the outcome, I do look forward to working with everyone around this chamber and in the administration, the BRA, and the folks here in the gallery to make sure that we're moving the city forward in a thoughtful way, that we are going to be funding, not just through one-time payouts, but through over and over again, that we're going to be funding our parks and our affordable housing needs and our education across the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Zakhem. Would anyone else like to comment on this matter? Councilor Jackson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. And I want to thank the maker, and I also want to thank all who actually participated in this important conversation. And I was just actually looking up, and I also want to thank Council President Wu for the coordination of Jazz Week and having to take this vote because I think we needed a little food or chicken soup for the soul today. It's interesting that our state is called a commonwealth, and it's a traditional English term for a political community founded for the common good. That was the actual definition of commonwealth. And I think there's a question in this vote as to whether or not this is about the common good of the city of Boston. And as Councilor Zakhem so aptly noted, I believe that every single person on this body means well for the city of Boston. But I do believe that this is a question of the soul of the city of Boston, and a soul that is actually not for sale. We should not be having a vote on the shadow at the same time as we are looking at this project. Those should be separate, and I will note that that is the line of questioning that the council president brought up. If we were going to change a policy, it should not be connected to a $1 billion deal. Now, that might be okay for the BRA. I'm not part of an appointed organization. I'm not part of an organization that's considered an authority. I'm an elected official. And as elected officials, when we are dealing with public land and when we are dealing with a public process, there should be, pun intended, no shade involved in that process. This shadow does impact one of the most significant parks and oldest parks in the United States of America. But the deal does add money to something that's in my district. All of Franklin Park is in my district. Franklin Park's disrepair didn't start and won't end with this issue. And by the way, budgets work such that our mayor could have actually put however much money he wanted to into Franklin Park this year. And so parks, open space, green space, affordable housing should be an operational priority, not simply paid for by one-off deals. We need to note this should not be a binary decision, a yes or no. That's actually not even how development works. There's an opportunity here, and those who actually work with the Boston Commons didn't say they don't want anything built. They actually said the process has been flawed, which I can't stand here and say I'm not upset, I'm not angered, and I'm not disappointed by the misleading, at best, and I'm just going to leave it there, misleading advice that the Boston Redevelopment Authority that has been contracted to do this work on behalf of the City Council, the City of Boston, and also the Mayor's office, in misleading us that they were supposed to let folks know about the shadow. They were supposed to let folks know about the FAA issues relative to building a 775-foot building when the FAA says that they can't build a building over 710 feet. This is, again, the real question here isn't whether or not we're going to help out the affordable housing in many of our districts or the parks in many of our districts. The question here really is, have we gone through a transparent public process for a public piece of land that will put forward a project that would have an indelible mark on the city of Boston? And I would submit to you, Madam President, no, that has actually not occurred. And again, the BRA or BPDA doesn't even follow its own acronym. They don't plan before they develop. And that's why they should be separated. We should be planning separate from development in the city of Boston. And I would also note that this is a contrived artificial urgency and time frame. We have a chance, an opportunity to get this right. And I would also note that there is not, and we asked, there's not a woman or a person of color who's even an equity partner in this deal. So if this is the deal of a lifetime, if it's once in a lifetime deal, how do we let that happen? How do we co-sign on that? And we also have an organization that's promising inclusion, but does not have a record of inclusion after doing many projects downtown. As a body, as an organization, as an elected body, I believe that this absolutely falls short of it being on the up and up. And I would just also just close and noting the BRA tried to dispose of this property before even coming to this body. And I want to give credit to Councilor LaMartina, who actually was the one who connected around the MOU. But I would say, and the reason why I voted against that is because this body was supposed to be the one to make the decision as to whether or not anything should have even ever gone out. Mistake after mistake, lack of transparency after lack of transparency. This has been a search for a pot of gold, and we know how that generally ends up. And I would just simply say this is about the soul of the city of Boston. And a question of, is the soul of the city of Boston, the future of the city of Boston, and how we leave it for our children for sale? And I will be voting no to emphatically say that is not for sale. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Jackson. Councilor LaMartina, you have the floor.
Madam President. Hearing. As you know, I represented that district for 6 years. For 6 years, that's been an eyesore. And you remember when I represented that district, we had a hole in the heart of Boston. And that's where the Millennium Tower is today. So there is a little urgency on this also. The last thing I want us to do is to delay this process so we have another eyesore for decades. But this is a good deal for the city of Boston. And when we went through that whole process with Winter Square Garage with the BPDA, and this place was packed, urging us to vote against it, giving the property to the BPDA at the time. But they wanted us to get the best deal. Because some folks thought, oh, it's going to be shady deals to be made at City Hall if the BRA or BPDA got it. There'd be some shady deals going on. They came up with the best deal for the city. It's going to benefit all of us. That Boston Common, I've been working with the advocates here for years, trying to come up with ideas how we could get more money for the Boston Common. That Boston Common, I hope everyone here walks through it, all right? Because I do all the time. It needs a lot of repair. We went through the budget process on Monday, all right? Doesn't look good. But most of our money is coming from the state, and every year there's less and less money. I want to commend the mayor for putting more money in the budget for parks, because I think parks are very important, particularly in the next decade or so when more and more people move into the city, and we need more and more nice park space for the people that live in the city, that visit our city. That Boston Common should be the showcase for our city of Boston. It really should. Where are we going to get $28 million at one time to spend on the Boston Common? We're not going to see that in our lifetime. We're really not. And the $12 million more every year for revenues for our coffers, city coffers, that's doing something good for our city. Like Councilor here mentioned earlier, it brings in $1 million before. Now it's going to bring in $12 million. And then the jobs, construction jobs, 1,000 construction jobs. People are going to be working there, be spending money in downtown Boston, which adds more tax benefits to our city. So this is a good deal for the city of Boston. I asked if it was going to really impact in regards to growing the grass. I mean, I'm not really upset right now because my neighbor took down the tree in my yard where I used to read my paper every morning. Guess what? I have sun there all day. It's really pissing me off, but this is but this is really, let's be serious, this is really good for the city of Boston. It's going to help people in my neighborhood in Orient Heights that live in the most oppressive housing units in the city. You have to see the place there. This will help fund phase 2. So poor people in our city will have decent housing. I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing. I'm not selling my soul. If I will sell my soul if it's going to help poor families live in decent housing, yes, I sold my soul. All right? I sold my soul. But guess what? I'm going to sleep better knowing that the people in my neighborhood and the people in South Boston and the people in Chinatown, poor people will sleep in nice beds and a nice apartment one day because of the deal that we're passing today, that we're going to vote on today. And I urge every single one of you here to support this. Thank you all.
Thank you, Councilor LaMattina. Councilor Presley, you have the floor.
Yes. Mic check. Thank you. Development matters. Its footprints are permanent, its impacts are far-reaching, and that is why our inboxes and this chamber have been filled with so many people. It's been powerful and inspiring to see the level of engagement of citizen activists from every walk of life weighing in on this issue. We've heard from park advocates who care about the future of our green and open spaces, from parents who want better homes for their families, from seniors who want to take a walk in a park in their neighborhood, and from small contractors and vendors, many of them MBEs, who see an opportunity to participate and to grow with our city. Too often things are happening in government, but people don't feel it or see it. So often there's growth and development in downtown, but the neighborhoods don't see or feel the benefit. This is a rare opportunity to rebuild affordable housing and to make some of our parks more safe, connected, accessible, and user-friendly. And always at the fore in my mind as we wrestle to address this persistent and nagging wealth gap. What is the opportunity for full inclusion and participation for our MBEs? Now, for the first time ever, we have clear goals for hiring MBEs in the construction and permanent phase. Now, these MBE goals are long overdue and a step in the right direction. They're not the end-all be-all. We still have a lot more work to do. But I want to make sure that we reach these goals. We all agree that that which gets measured gets done. And that is why I've successfully negotiated with Millennium quarterly reporting instead of the annual reporting, which was originally agreed to. This will hold us all accountable and allow us to recalibrate in real time. Now we have a new model, a measurable MBE model in the recent Massport Omni Hotel project. And this is an opportunity to replicate that in private development. And that is why I'm supporting this home rule. Now, the challenge for all of us moving forward is not to have the aspirations for an entire city hinged on one project. When everyone leaves this chamber, we'll still have to deal with real and complex problems. This is not a period, full stop. This is a comma. We still have to identify sustainable revenue for our entire park system. We still have to use what we learn from MBE data to recalibrate in real time and to develop baselines for future development. You know, I've found that urgency is crystallized in these moments. And so often we go on to the next thing, back to our own side. And we forget about the disparities and the divides that were highlighted in that moment in the first place and exacerbated. It seems we are collectively facing these challenges one vote at a time and becoming increasingly more polarized. And if we've learned nothing from this last election cycle, that silos of self-righteous indignation do not advance our society. We are facing these challenges as a city, it seems, one vote at a time. But it seems to me, to all of us and to the advocates, to the residents of the city, I implore you that the real work falls in between these votes. And let's get to it. This is just a comma. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Presley. Councillor Campbell, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. So I'm a district counselor. I'm a district counselor first. And as I explained at the hearing, the over 5-hour hearing that we held, my constituents in D4 see this as an equity issue. The number one concern we hear from District 4 residents is that we don't get what the residents in West Roxbury, Jamaica Plain, Beacon Hill, the South End, Back Bay, what they get for their parks, what they get for their schools, what they get for their housing stock, what they get for their streets, what they get for their economic business districts. As a result, many of my District 4 residents have emailed, they have called, particularly in the last few weeks, to express their support. There have also been some residents who have expressed opposition, but the majority have expressed their support. And when you add the fact that we have promised and guaranteed funding for parks and projects within their neighborhood, they are even more inclined to support this home rule petition. Thus, as a district councilor, it's extremely difficult for me to vote no. I recognize, though, that this is not a black and white issue. It's a complex issue, an issue that frankly started before I joined the council. And I recognize that there were pieces of the process that I think broke down in many ways. One thing I did hear at that hearing was the deep concern and the deep frustration that residents, particularly those who live in Councilor Zacum's district, expressed about the flawed process. I am a huge proponent of open and transparent processes that involve all stakeholders, all residents, including those in my neighborhood, being a part of conversations prior to decisions are made. I think when we do that, we avoid where we are now, which is neighborhoods against neighborhoods, and echoing Councilor Zacum, pitting districts against other districts, District 4 residents against those who live downtown, us versus them. It's created an equity issue that may have been avoided if we had a more robust and open process in the beginning. I pride myself and my team as well as a counselor who looks to bring together residents from all parts of my district. And I have, for example, Ashmont Hill juxtaposed to residents that live across Washington Street and Codman Square that sometimes have very different concerns when it comes to their neighborhood. But we pride ourselves in bringing folks together in those neighborhoods at the beginning of conversations and then rolling out policies. I recognize that there were some decisions made with respect to this proposal that were made behind closed doors. Some of the guarantees of funding for Franklin Park or certain housing authorities may have happened not in an open process. So my residents would have received this information after the fact. I think the equity issue could have been avoided if we had a conversation at the beginning with every single stakeholder, including those residents that live near Franklin Park, that live in other neighborhoods, a part of those conversations from the very beginning. if my residents were sitting down with the residents from downtown who had concerns about the shadow and the Boston Common Park, and had an opportunity to engage with one another. But that's obviously the past, and moving forward, I think we as a city can do a better job when it comes to process. But like I've articulated, it's extremely difficult for me as a district councilor to vote no, given the majority of support that I've heard from my district residents, as well as the guarantees that have been made by the developer to my constituents for particular purposes. I will say the issue of equity and the issue that my constituents raise in terms of their frustration, and sometimes it is anger and sometimes it is very much resentment about their neighborhoods being underinvested, their neighborhoods being overlooked. Those are legitimate concerns. Those are concerns that every single resident in the city of Boston should take to heart. And like I said at the hearing, if you spend some time in some of the housing authorities within District 4, particularly Franklin Field, which has been underinvested and under-resourced for a very long time, it changes your mind and your perspective on what it means to be a resident, and what it means to have empathy and compassion for residents who live in other neighborhoods in the city of Boston. I hope that this will be a learning lesson for all of us to actually engage one another early on, to engage each other not in a superficial way, but in a really comprehensive and impassioned way to really address these issues. We have a $3.14 billion budget. There is no neighborhood in the city of Boston that should go under-resourced for such a long time. Sometimes it is about priorities. I do understand we're seeing a lot of money from the federal government dry up. I do understand that we're seeing stagnant state aid. But at the same time, with such a large budget, I do think there's some choices that we have to make. There's some priorities that have to be shifted around for the benefit of those neighborhoods, particularly those neighborhoods that have been under-resourced and underinvested for a long time. And I think that's a task we all have to take part in. So this is, like I said, not a black and white issue. It's a complex issue, but it's one that I've thought about deeply. And I wanted residents, particularly Councilor Zakem, who covers the park, to know that I've thought about deeply. But I will be voting yes, because that's what the majority of my residents want to see. But I hope that as a city, we do a better job going forward when it comes to processes, open and transparent processes, and recognize that we sometimes make mistakes. We should own those, we should take responsibility, and we should always do better going forward. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Campbell. Councilor O'Malley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I would put my environmental bona fides and parks advocacy up against anyone's. It's among the things I take the most professional pride in, and it is precisely for that reason that I am supporting this home rule petition. I wanted to begin by acknowledging the incredible regard and respect I have for our dear colleague, Councilor Josh Zakem. This is an unfamiliar terrain for me. He and I are almost always on the same side of every issue. We're not on this, but I did want to say, Councilor Zakem, how much I respect you and your position, understand where you are coming from, and the leadership that you have shown for your district through this process. And similarly, I'd say the same to many of the parks advocates who are here, people I've gotten to know, some I knew before, others I've gotten to know through this process. I appreciate your perspective, understand it, and want to address, I think, what the three biggest concerns are: the impact, the process, and the precedent. There's no doubt that this will have an impact vis-a-vis. It will create more shadows on the Boston Common and the public garden. These won't be the first shadows of the day or the last shadows of the day. It'll be on the Common for, I believe, about 2/3 of the year, and the public garden for 1/3 of the year. Both proponents and opponents have commissioned individual shadow studies, which are pretty much, I think both sides would agree, are both realistic predictions of what to come. If you'll notice, the impact, while there, isn't large and will not affect the flora or the fauna that lives there. Another aspect of this, as Councilor Linehan mentioned, was the fact that this will get rid of the remainder of the shadow bank for the Common, which I think is a trade-off that makes enormous sense aside from the money. The second is the process. I think we need to be crystal clear that this body authorized the BPDA to get us the best deal, and that's what they did. Some people, I believe, are conflating mistrust and cynicism about the BRA or BPTA, much of which is rightly generated by themselves, self-inflicted, with the fact that the process wasn't as robust as it could have been or should have been. There's always room for improvement. None of us dispute that, but we asked the BPDA to get us the best deal, and they did. Finally, the precedent, what this will mean going forward. I think it's important to note that this is a very unique situation. The Winthrop Square Garage was a city resource that generated very, very little revenue, fell in such disrepair that the city had to condemn it itself. We don't have any other situation, other than City Hall Plaza itself, there's no real comparable situation. So to suggest that, this is going to open a whole Pandora's box, I don't think is actually a fair assumption of what's to come. Moreover, I think that it's a dangerous position if this body were to prevent some worthwhile goal because of some hypothetical situation down the line. That's how I feel about the concerns that have been raised by opponents. Now we need to talk about the benefits because the housing piece is absolutely crucial. What this will do for South Boston, for Chinatown and East Boston will be absolutely transformational for so many people. That in and of itself is an incredibly compelling reason. We add that to the focus on parks, not only the Common, which could desperately use the $25+ million, and that will be transformative for our park, far outweighs the costs that come with it, but also completing the Emerald Necklace and Franklin Park. $25 or $28 million for Franklin Park will be absolutely amazing. Today is the 195th birthday of one of my personal heroes, Frederick Law Olmsted, the man who developed urban parks across this country, including the Emerald Necklace, including the Common, including so much of what we love about this city. I think that the fact that this investment will not only complete the Emerald Necklace, will be transformative for Franklin Park, will be additionally as transformative, if not more so, for the public, for the Boston Common and the Public Garden, is the best way to celebrate Frederick Law Olmsted's 195th birthday today. We will never see a project that will have this much impact in so many aspects of so many neighborhoods of Boston. I will be voting yes, and I urge you all to do the same.
Thank you, Councilor O'Malley. I see no further signals to speak, so if the chair could clarify, we just want complete clarity because there were some edits between the original home rule language and what is being voted on today.
Thank you,
Councilor
Madam
Flaherty.
President. Should I read I'll read section 7 and 8 in its entirety so that there's no question. There were some small changes. Section 7, as used in section 7 and section 8 of this act, the following words shall have the following meanings. Article 48. Article 48 of the zoning code as it existed on March 31st, 2017. New shadow. New shadow, the casting of a shadow at any time on an area which is not cast in shadow at such time by a structure which exists on or for by which a building permit or local zoning entitlements through the Zoning Board of Appeal or Boston Zoning Commission have been granted on the date upon which application is made to the permit granting authority for a proposed structure in which would not be cast in shadow by structure conforming to as of right height limits allowed by the Boston Zoning Code as enforced on March 31st, 2017. New shadow shall not include a de minimis shadow cast by an antenna, fence, flagpole, sign, or other similar structure. Copley Square Park. Copley Square Park, the land in the city of Boston bound by Boylston Street, Clarendon Street, St. James Avenue, and Dartmouth Street, and under the care, custody, management, and control of the city's Park and Recreation Commission, excluding land occupied by Trinity Church. Section 8, in its entirety, notwithstanding any provisions of Chapter 121A or Chapter 121B of the General Laws, or Chapter 665 of the Acts of 1956, or any other general or special law to the contrary, no permit granting authority shall take any action which would authorize the construction of any structure within Stewart Street District established by Article 48, which would cast a new shadow for more than 2 hours from 8 o'clock in the morning through 2:30 in the afternoon on any day from March 21st to October 21st, inclusive in any calendar year on any area of Copley Square Park, provided, however, that the provisions of this section shall not apply to the actions authorizing any structure that has received local zoning entitlements through the Zoning Board of Appeal or by virtue of being included in a development plan or planned development area master plan within Stewart Street District, all as approved on or before March 31st, 2017 by the Zoning Commission in accordance with Chapter 665 of the Acts of 1956. as such Board of Appeal relief or development plan may thereafter be amended, provided, however, that such amendment shall not permit construction of a structure which would cast additional new shadows as defined in Section 7 of this Act for more than 2 hours, as aforesaid. So those are the changes to the home rule petition, which is why the recommendation was to pass it in a new draft. Those were changes to Section 7 and to Section 8. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Flaherty. And if I'm correct, so basically to translate and summarize, there were two minor formalities correcting the language, and the most substantive was to add the second half of Section 8, which you read, which is to specify and clarify that projects near Copley Square who have gone through the Zoning Board of Appeals and received that set of approvals but have not yet received all their permits for construction will not be affected by this, essentially are grandfathered in. Is that correct? Thank you. Okay, at this time then, Councilor Flaherty moves for passage of docket 0566 in a new draft. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll on docket 0566?
Docket number 0566. Counselor Baker.
Yes.
Counselor Baker, yes. Counselor Campbell. Counselor Campbell, yes. Counselor Siomo. Counselor Siomo, yes. Counselor Asabi George. Counselor Asabi George, yes. Counselor Flaherty. Counselor Flaherty, yes. Counselor Jackson. Counselor Jackson, no. Counselor Lamattina. Counselor Lamattina, yes. Counselor Linehan. Counselor Linehan, yes. Counselor McCarthy. Counselor McCarthy, yes. Counselor O'Malley. Counselor O'Malley, yes. Counselor Presley. Counselor Presley, yes. Counselor Wu.
No.
Counselor Wu, no. And Counselor Zachem. Counselor Zachem, no. Madam President, we have.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Docket 0566 has been passed in a new draft with a 10-3 vote. Moving on, again, we have several recently heard budget items. So, Madam Clerk, if you could please read dockets 0550 through 0559.
Thank you. Docket number 0550, message and order authorizing the limit for the Boston Public Schools revolving fund for fiscal year 2018 to support the maintenance and repair for BPS facilities, including custodial and utility costs for extended building time, floor refinishing, landscaping, and building repairs. Receipts from lease and permit use and parking fees for BPS facilities will be deposited in the fund. BPS will be the only unit authorized to expend from the fund, and such expenditures shall not exceed $2,600,000. Docket number 0551, message and order authorizing a limit for the Boston Public Schools revolving fund for fiscal year 2018 to repair and purchase Boston Public Schools computer technology, including computers, mobile devices, and instructional services. This revolving fund shall be credited with all and any receipts from the equipment sale repair fees for the Boston Public Schools technology. Receipts and resulting expenditures from this fund shall not exceed $1,500,000. Docket number 0552, message and order authorizing a limit for the Boston Public Schools revolving fund for fiscal year 2018 for Boston Public School transportation costs, including bus and public transportation costs. This revolving fund shall be credited with revenue received by Boston Public School Department for the provision of transportation to groups and entities for field trips and activities and other transportation to and from school. Receipts and resulting expenditures from this fund shall not exceed $125,000. Docket number 0559. Message and order authorizing a limit for the Boston Public Schools revolving fund for fiscal year 2017 to support the maintenance and repair for BPS facilities, including custodial and utility costs for extended building time, floor refinishing, landscaping, and building repairs. Receipts from lease and permit use and parking fees for BPS facilities will be deposited in the fund. BPS will be the only unit authorized to expend from the fund. and such expenditures shall not exceed $2,600,000.
Thank you. Dockets 0550 through, 0550, 0551, 0552, and 0559 will remain in the Committee on Ways and Means.
Thank you. Docket number 0198, order for hearing regarding the implementation of community choice aggregation in the city of Boston.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee on Environment and Sustainability, Councilor O'Malley.
Thank you, Madam President. Yesterday, we had a, I think, tremendously impressive and impactful working session on an ordinance that you and I introduced, Council President, seeking to create community choice aggregation in the city of Boston. This is something that's done, it's in the works for about 40 different cities and towns throughout the Commonwealth. Several other cities throughout the country have done it, and what it does is a result of deregulation of our utilities. It allows for cities to leverage their buying power, the economy of scale, to purchase bulk electricity and then sell it, have it delivered to their customers, the residents. It's a very sort of wonky situation. There'd be no impact of change, almost no impact of change to the ratepayers. In our case, Eversource or the former NSTAR would still be delivering it, but it would allow us to increase the number of renewable energy sources that we use. Right now, it's about 11.5%. Other cities have gone up to 15, 20. Brookline is looking at going at 25%. So it was a working session, although it was in this chamber. We will continue the conversation. We're not looking for action right now, but I wanted to publicly thank the Council President for her partnership on this. We've been meeting with the utility companies. Eversource has been terrific, answering every question. We've met with the Attorney General's office. We'll continue to have meetings with different advocate groups as well. It was a packed hearing. There's a lot of interest. I think that it's something that we can not only lessen our carbon footprint by increasing our renewable energy sources, but we can also protect the ratepayer. As I have said time and time again, you could all say my rap by now, being a good environmentalist is also about being a good steward of taxpayer money. And oftentimes environmental initiatives benefit the taxpayer. This is certainly one case where it does in many cases. You've seen Melrose, for example, increase their renewable energy sources considerably by 40%, which is only about 5% on top, but 40% of what they have, while their rates are going down as well. So stay tuned. We're going to continue to work with this and work with the relevant stakeholders going forward, but I think this is a great opportunity for Boston to once again lead on something, provide real leadership when it comes to combating climate change and making sure that we have consumer protection as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor O'Malley. Docket 0198 will remain in the Committee on Environment and Sustainability. Before we proceed, Madam Clerk, Councilor Flaherty is signaling. Councilor Flaherty, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Just would like to move for consideration through you to the rest of the body on docket 0517. It came up a little quicker than I expected. I needed an opportunity to confer with the council budget director and the council staff attorney on a matter, but would like to see if we could revisit that.
Is there any objection to, is there any objection? No. Okay. Docket number 0517, now back before the council. Madam Clerk, do you need to read that back into the record?
I'd be happy to.
Okay, if you could, please.
Docket number 0517, the Committee on Government Operations, to which was referred on April 5th, 2017, docket number 0517, order approving a petition for a special law regarding an act relative to the ownership and occupancy deadline for residential property exemptions in the city of Boston, submits a report recommending the home rule petition ought to pass.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and thank you, Madam President. This matter was sponsored by our colleague, City Councilor Mark Siomo, referred to the Committee on Government Operations back on April the 5th of 2017. 0517 is a home rule petition that will allow taxpayers who obtain their principal residence after January 1st and before July 1st to receive the residential exemption for the transfer year, as opposed to waiting a year and a half in order to receive the residential exemption. We held the hearing. Commissioner Ron Rackow of the Assessing Department offered testimony in support of the proposal. He explained that under the current law, the qualification date for the residential exemption is January 1st, which is actually before the start of the fiscal year. He also would explain that the proposal would also amend state law to allow those that purchase their homes between January 2nd and July 1st to be able to apply for the residential exemption. At this time, I'm recommending that the matter ought to pass, but would like an opportunity through the chair to allow Councilor Siomo, the lead sponsor, to give us his thoughts and comments. Thank you.
Thank you,
Madam President.
Counselor Flaherty. Counselor Siomo, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Chairman Flaherty, for the hearing. And I also want to thank our staff attorney, Christine O'Donnell, and Commissioner Rackow, who worked with me and my staff to draft this. As Councilor Flaherty explained, this docket would eliminate the chance of an 18-month wait time to receive the benefit of a residential exemption. It will encourage home ownership and will provide assistance to new homeowners by allowing them to receive the residential exemption earlier. Docket 0517 will balance the interests of new homeowners while still preserving the January 1st income tax date and residency qualification for all other homeowners. Current law, Section 5C of Chapter 59 of the General Laws, provides for residential exemptions for qualified homeowners. Under current law, a new homeowner who purchases a property, for example, on January 2nd, must wait a year and a half before being eligible to take the exemption, which is burdensome to new homeowners and families. Last year, the value of the residential exemption for Class 1 residential properties, which includes 1 to 6 family owner-occupied homes. I want to make that clear. Some of the press gets that wrong. They think it's just single families. 1 to 6 family owner-occupants get a $2,432.91 tax exemption from their tax bill, dollar for dollar. This law closes the loophole that blocked new homeowners from accessing the significant savings. So I asked my colleagues, I don't think this is as controversial as the last docket, so I ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Siomo. Counselor Linehan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I just rise to commend the author, and this is something that's long overdue. This particular request from constituents who had bought homes or sold them and then bought others has been coming down the pike for my 10 years on the city council. So this can make an enormous impact on someone who just took the time and found the ability to buy a home and could save them, $1,000 that could be used to for much better purpose. And so thank you, Councilor Siomo, and I'll be supporting.
Thank you, Counselor Linehan. At this time, Counselor Flaherty moves for acceptance of the committee report and passage of docket 0517. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0517 has been passed. Madam Clerk, while we are revisiting other dockets, I did want to clarify, thank you, Central Staff, for reminding me. I had stated that docket 0544 would remain in the Ways and Means Committee along with the whole block of others, but that one is actually jointly assigned to Ways and Means and Government Operations. So just to be 100% clear, it should remain jointly in the Committee on Ways and Means and Government Operations. Thank you. On to motions, orders, and resolutions.
Docket number 0606, Counselor Jackson offered the following order, requesting certain information under Section 17F, all financial records of legal fees, interest paid, and court awards owed or paid by the city regarding discrimination suits filed against the City of Boston and its Treasury Department between January 1st, 2011 and April 26, 2017.
Counselor Jackson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Sadly, the Treasury Department actually lost a discrimination lawsuit to the tune of $13 million. And I think it's critical that we have an understanding of the legal fees associated with this as and sadly as the Corporation Counsel is actually fighting the individual who works in that department in court with an appeal around this. I think it is critical that we have an understanding of the financial framework, the dollars that are being expended on our behalf after there has been a judgment, and whether or not, and hopefully we'll get to the bottom of actually whether or not things have actually changed in that department. It is critical that this body looks at the finances, but also the conditions in which people work in the city of Boston. It is to me, very, very scary to think that an individual continues to work in the same environment. And I'd like to know as much as possible about that. But I also want to know how much in dollars and cents this has cost the city of Boston, and how much current litigation is actually costing us as we actually deny one of the city employees who's actually won in court a judgment, their actual judgment. Thank you so much, Madam President.
Thank you, Counselor Jackson. So you're seeking action on this today, correct? Okay. Counselor Jackson moves for suspension of the rules and passage of docket 0606. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. Docket 0606 has been passed.
Docket number 0607, Councilors O'Malley and McCarthy offer the following order for hearing on reestablishing the Boston Youth Cleanup Campaign BYCC program.
Counselor O'Malley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I may be showing my age a little bit. For a long time, I was the youngest counselor. Now at least 3 of you are younger than me. But I have such fond memories of the BYCC program, the Boston Youth Cleanup Program, commonly known as the Red Shirts. Many, many of my friends were participants or Red Shirts in the late 1990s as a teenager. I wasn't. I had a summer job during the summers of those years, working in what is now Counselor Campbell's office, formerly Counselor Peggy Davis Mullen's office. That was my summer job during the day, right down the hallway. Then Roach Brothers, of course, at night. But I know Counselor McCarthy, my co-sponsor on this, played an outside role in his former capacity working for Mayor Menino and oversaw this program. This was a tremendous program for many, many years. I think it was originally started by Mayor Flynn in the late 80s, lasted till about 2002, where budget constraints may have parted back. It began as the Red Shirt, later became the Gray Shirts. My Chief of Staff, Bill McGregor, was a Red Shirt. He actually still has his red shirt, but I couldn't dragoon him to wearing it in today. Unlike me, his high school shirt still fits him. It wouldn't be the case for me. But it was a great program. It was helping kids with a summer job. They'd often be cleaning up on city parks or playgrounds or areas. And it was very, very a worthwhile aspect of our youth summer job programs. And I think now is the opportunity that we ought to bring it back. We ought to really encourage a vocational technical aspect to it as well, working with some of our nonprofit partners, chiefly Harvard University and the Arnold Arboretum between District 5 and District 6. This shouldn't be the only summer jobs. Obviously, we want to have a vast array of different offerings, but I think this could be one aspect that we're really missing. I'd like to see this paired with not only Commissioner Cook in the Parks and Recreation Department, but the Department of Public Works as well. So Councilor McCarthy and he's going to speak a little bit about how he oversaw and administered this program in his time before being elected. But I think we have an opportunity to pilot it. I'd love to see it happen this year, offer some kids an opportunity to learn something, learn a new trade, work with some of our great city workers, make a little bit of extra money, and really give back to this city. The second aspect that I think we should have when we hold our hearing, and I hope we'll have an expedited hearing on this, is about possibly extending it in some capacity to the winter months as well, to help with snow removal, to help with cleanup. I think we have a great opportunity to bring a project that really, really worked well, to bring it back. It'll be tremendously impactful for young Bostonians, and urge you all to co-sponsor. And want to thank Councilor McCarthy. This is something he and I have been bandying about for quite some time. Literally, he is the expert on this, and always great to partner with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor O'Malley. Counselor McCarthy, you have the floor.
I never thought I'd be talking about Red Shirts again. So when I started for the Red Shirts, you want to talk about age, Matt? I had a shirt, and on the left chest it said Raymond L. Flynn, Mayor. And Billy probably worked for me, and if you were working in the late 90s, you would have worked for me as well. The Red Shirts are a great program, and the Gray Shirts, we turned it in, and as Matt said, due to budget constraints, we focused a lot on the community-based organizations. Back in the day, we had a winter work program, and I know that the councilors who were in this chamber at that time utilized that winter work program. They all worked out of local CBOs where 10 to 15 kids would report if school was canceled, or even on the weekends to help out with ramps and fire hydrants. And if you're giving JP Licks things out for fire hydrants, you better watch yourself this year. It's a phenomenal program that we can stretch throughout the year, and I couldn't agree with Councilor O'Malley more. I appreciate the fact that he reached out to me for this. I'm looking forward to it. It was a program that I enjoyed for 9 summers, 10 years, And I think that just about everybody in Boston in that age group worked for the Red Shirts or worked for a CBO site, a YMCA, a Boys and Girls Club. And I think that it was an imperative. It was such an imperative program when we started the Boston Miracle and kids were working. And I know that there's a certain clerk here who used to call me all the time and say things like, "Don't tell the other side of the 5th floor, but this person missed the Hope line," and we'd take care of business. So it was all good. But I'm looking forward to a new day of the Red Shirts and giving youth opportunity. And I hope everybody jumps in.
Thank you, Councilor McCarthy. Councilor Linehan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, and I want to thank both co-sponsors for this order. I think it's something long overdue. It's something that is truly part of Boston, and because I am the dean of the delegation here, I actually hired Tim when he got his first red shirt job. No, it was Mayor Flynn too, but you know. And just a quick little history. The first summer jobs program for the city of Boston was a federally funded sort of program. And there were only 300 youth who got jobs. And then Mayor Flynn decided that this is such a good idea, we need to expand that. And it was paramount that we expanded by 100 kids. And then it was to 500. And then it was to 1,000. And today it's 5,000. So, but what has gotten lost is that there used to be city kids working in a program that's run by city staff, and they would go out and affect certain areas throughout all of the neighborhoods of the city. And that everybody who works now for the Youth Fund is associated with a not-for-profit. Right. We've lost that little independence, that part where they actually went out and served the public directly on behalf of the city. And somehow it gets lost. So not only is it a great example, but it was a great indoctrination for every young person. And back then, it was 14 years old. You could go to work and hook up and be part of City of Boston. And that meant a lot to a lot of young people. It meant a lot to me back then to be part of that. And I think you guys are right on target. Thank you very much. And please sign my name to them.
Thank you, Councilor Linehan. Madam Clerk, please add Councilor Linehan's name. Please add Councilor Baker, Councilor Campbell, Councilor Siomo, Councilor Sabi George, Councilor LaMattina, Councilor Presley, Councilor Zachem. Please add the chair's name. Councilor Flaherty, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Rise to have my name added. I remember the red shirts. I also remember the green shirts. I don't know what happened to the green shirts. Nothing against the color gray, but a great program. And I want to make sure that through the makers, if they would consider, you have the age here of 14 to 17, and maybe we can bump that to 19, maybe even 20. I think this is a great pathway to Public Works, to the Parks and Rec Department, to code enforcement. So while a lot of these kids will take advantage of a nice summer job, there are those kids that maybe have aged out of school but don't really have a career path or an opportunity. But if they do a really great job in this program, they could be tapped for one of our city departments. So again, I sign on to add support. Look forward to the hearing, and would just like to consider maybe moving the age a little bit deeper. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Flaherty. Madam Clerk, please add Councilor Flaherty's name. Councilor Jackson, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. So I had no idea that I may have worked for both Bill and Tim, and you owe me money. That's all I have to say. I do want to note, and I also agree with Councilor Flaherty. We know that we actually have young people in the Boston Public Schools till age 22, and Councilor Presley has done some work around ensuring that people have exits into the workplace and jobs. So I think we should actually be thinking about aligning it with the Boston Public Schools. We all remember our first job, and we all remember our first check, and we also remember the disappointment when we saw that the top number was not the actual number, and it was actually the bottom number. And one of the things that this actually does, and I think we should be looking forward to, is full employment for every single young person who needs a job. If we're having conversations about stopping violence, if we're having conversations in the city about preparing young people for the future and future leaders, this is the way to do it. And I want to just give kudos to Councilor O'Malley and Councilor McCarthy. I've been, I don't know, I think it was probably even last week, just talking about, remember the red shirts? Everyone could get a gig. And what we did see, and this is also connected, there was a time when violence went down, right? And that was connected to young people having jobs. And I actually know some friends who stopped doing what they were doing and took this competitive rate and put down what they were doing. This serves as an alternative, and also it gives you accountability. And we also know that the earlier that we begin to work, the less likely over the course of our lifetime that we are to be unemployed. And so I think there's another component here that really supercharges young people into our workforce. I think this is the least that we can do. And for the funds that we have, this is a great use of funding. And I hope, and I appreciate the timing of it, I hope that we can actually see a reflection of this in this year's budget. And I know Councilor O'Malley has always looks at the calendar. I think the time is absolutely perfect, and we should see funds and full funding for youth summer jobs, as well as jobs throughout the year. That is a critical component to making the city safer, the city better prepared, and the future of Boston better. Thank you so much. Please add my name, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Jackson. Madam Clerk, please add Councilor Jackson's name. Councilor Baker, you have the floor.
No, I just wanted to sign on.
Okay. Thank you. Docket number 0607 will be assigned to the Committee on City and Neighborhood Services and Veterans Affairs. Personnel orders.
Docket number 0608, Counselor Wu for Counselor Baker.
Counselor Baker moves for suspension and passage of docket 0608. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Docket 0608 has been passed.
Docket 0609, Counselor Wu for Counselor Baker.
Counselor Baker moves for suspension and passage of docket 0609. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Docket 0609 has been passed. I'm informed by the clerk that there are 4 late filed matters, all of which are personnel in nature. And in the absence of objection, we'll add them to the agenda. Hearing none, Madam Clerk, if you could please read the first matter.
Thank you, Madam President. Counselor Michelle Wu for Counselor LaMattina.
LaMattina moves for suspension and passage of the first late file. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The first late filed matter has been passed.
Counselor Michelle Wu for Counselor LaMattina.
LaMattina moves for suspension and passage of the second late filed matter. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. Councilor O'Malley has it. And second late filed matter has been passed.
Counselor Wu for Counselor LaMattina.
LaMattina moves for suspension and passage of the third late filed matter. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Third late filed matter has been passed.
And Counselor Wu ordered that effective.
And finally, Chair moves for suspension and passage of the fourth late filed matter. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The fourth late filed matter has been passed. There are also 4 late filed matters for the consent agenda, which will be added absent objection. Hearing none, Chair moves adoption of the consent agenda. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Consent agenda is adopted. We'll pause here for any statements or announcements to the group. Former council president reminds me that I breezed right by the green sheets. Would anyone like to pull a matter from the green sheets? Okay, then if all councilors and guests could please rise. Today, we will adjourn our city council meeting in memory of the following individuals. For Councilor Baker, Millie DaCosta. For Councilors Baker and Asabi George, William Lynch. For Councilor Siomo, George Axiotis, Francis T. Griffin, Grace Rooney, and Donata Sacco. For Councilors Flaherty and Linehan, Sean M. Thomas. For Councilor LaMattina, John A. DeVito and Jean Marie Malio Petrillo. For Councilor O'Malley, Marilyn LaRosa. For Councilor McCarthy, Irene Kutlis, Nancy N. Larson, Fotini Tournas, and Athanasios Vulgaropoulos. And for the chair, Claire Smith. A moment of silence, please. Thank you. Chair moves that when the council adjourns today, we do so in memory of the aforementioned individuals. We're scheduled to meet again Wednesday, May 3rd at 12 noon. All in favor of adjournment say aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Council is adjourned.